How do you prepare for something which you can't even imagine? How do you try to foresee what you might face when you actually get to that point? And what happens if something goes wrong? Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and very welcome guests. We all face questions like this throughout our life. And it's up to each of us to decide how to handle what comes up. The lead singer of the band Radiohead once famously talked about how before he became a father, how people said to him, "It's really going to change your life." He continued on saying they should have taken him by the shirt, thrown him up against the wall, and said, "It's going to change your life." Well, I don't have any experience in anything like this. I have experience in attempting to plan for something which is sort of unplannable. In May of last year, I decided to go to Machu Picchu in Peru. That was the easy part. How exactly would I do it? And what would I see or do when I got there? Just to give you a bit of history on the site, it was founded in 1462 and is often referred to as the lost city of the Incas. It's in great condition, as it was never discovered and consequently plundered by the Spanish. And it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and possibly more importantly, and you might have heard this recently, it was named one of the 7 wonders of the modern world, so a huge boost for their tourism. Anyone into backpacking, I'm not sure how many people are, will have heard of the famous Inca Trail. It's a grueling 3-day, 80-kilometer hike through the jungle from the city of Cusco to the peak of the mountain where Machu Picchu is located. Numbers are limited on this hike, as they want to ensure that the surroundings stay pristine and natural, and also due to the climbing conditions themselves, which are very steep slopes, and the trail is sometimes only wide enough for one person at a time. They have to make sure they have enough tour guides to ensure that no one falls down the side of them. After a lot of consideration, I decided to go by train to just short of the peak. Now it was just a matter of deciding how to prepare for Machu Picchu and what I would do and see when I got there. The decision to take the train made my life a lot easier because it meant that I could do Machu Picchu as a day trip from Cusco and not have to take my backpack, which was taller than my head, and could just kind of have the bare essentials in a day pack with me. Although I consider myself in fairly good condition, the summit of Machu Picchu is about 2,400 meters above sea level. So even an easy kind of hike around something is really difficult at that altitude for people who live in kind of southern Canada. So for my day bag, you'd be amazed at how similar it is packing for a day in the Andes to packing, say, for a day in downtown Toronto. I had my wallet, my train pass. I had my camera, of course, my phone, lots of water. The difference was that I also had my faithful Lonely Planet and a journal to take notes when I got to the top. In preparation, I read over information on Machu Picchu from a lot of different sources. It had been described as sacred, striking, fascinating, and an architectural masterpiece. I was incredibly looking forward to seeing it in my own 2 days. By this point, I really believed that I had planned for everything. And short of a natural disaster, I was going to eat the trails when I got to the top. I was so excited. The day before arriving in my connection point of Cusco in Peru, the unthinkable happened though. I woke up that morning with the worst bronchitis I'd ever had in my entire life. Now, I had been immunized for hepatitis, typhoid, yellow fever, and others, and I never considered in a million years that I would get bronchitis, which I had before, in a tropical place. It was the last thing I would have been thinking of. So at this point, I was faced with a choice. Do I go or don't I go? Now, I guess being the somewhat stubborn person that I am, I found myself in a pharmacy in Cusco the next day, pleading with the pharmacist in broken Spanish and sign language for anything to help my throat and my cough. I don't know if you are in a similar situation, but it's not fun not speaking the local language. The pharmacist loaded me up with some icky tasting medicine, some cough drops, and lots of echinacea scented tissues. Of course, I couldn't understand anything she was telling me, so she was actually nice enough to get someone to translate how often I was allowed to take everything for me. I could have kissed her. I was that grateful. So, at 5 a.m. the next day, I was downtown at the train station, clinging for dear life to my backpack, which was recently loaded down with medicine, and determined to make the best of an unpredictable and somewhat bad situation. Well, it was definitely not the best way to see something as amazing as Machu Picchu. I think I would have regretted it for the rest of my life if I hadn't gotten on that train and at least tried. I don't want to spoil it for you by describing my experience of Machu Picchu, but I will say that everything I read about it and more was definitely true. It's a majestic and a magical place. And at one point, sitting down, when I finally got to the top, sitting down and just kind of looking out and soaking up the panoramic view all around, the temples and the really steep slopes. And it was really picturesque, like even the lamps kind of dotting the horizon. I was high on life, and not just cough medicine and altitude. Oxygen deficiency, definitely. Anyways, in this, I learned a very valuable lesson when you're thinking about planning. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just to remember that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. I just hope I can remember that if I ever have kids.